everybody, welcome to the water bath canning class. This is sponsored by the Guadalupe County Master Gardeners and Texas AgriLife. We want to thank them for letting us use their building, their beautiful kitchen today. We have a couple of students that are going to be here with us doing the class. We're going to go through all the steps to do the water bath canning. There is a PowerPoint that goes along with this video, and I hope that you will read it. We will link you up with that PowerPoint, and you can read through all the details that we're not going to cover in the actual hands-on portion of this class. So what we've done ahead of time that you will need to do for water bath canning, and by the way, my name is April Ripple. I guess I should introduce myself. I am a master gardener and a certified food handling manager. What we've done ahead of time is we have used whatever brand of disinfectant you want to disinfect your entire kitchen area. Everything that you think you might touch, your oven, the knobs, the refrigerator door, handles on your cabinet, your sink handles, because you're going to wash your hands often. If you touch anything, you're going to be washing your hands. Sanitation is your #1 concern when canning, okay? That's what's going to keep all those bad bacteria, germs, viruses, all that kind of stuff out of your food. So you want to be sure and sanitize everything. That way if we accidentally touch something, hopefully it's already clean and we won't have to worry about it. I do often go ahead and wash my hands anyway though. So it's really hard not to touch stuff. All right, so what we've done now after disinfecting is I've put water in my canner. And I actually already have the jars in here. Students, if you'd like to come up and look, because you're going to be participating in this. Just click it. Step away. Okay, so the jars are already in there. We're bringing the water up to a boil. Your water needs to be 1 to 2 inches above your jar. A good rule of thumb that I found works is with the jars empty, and you might want to get a picture inside here, with the empty jars full of water, it's not only going to sanitize your jars when it comes up to boiling, but it kind of gives you a measurement of where to do it. If you have your water about 1 inch above the jar, when the jars are just have water in them, they don't have the product yet. Once you empty the water out of the jars back into the pot, put your product in it, put it back in, it displaces the water enough that you have about 2 inches above the jar. So that's just a good rule of thumb. If you're not a good judge of that, get you a little metal ruler or something so you can measure, make sure you have at least 1 to 2 inches of water above the top of the jar. That's what you need for water canning. Questions?
So I do have a question. How hot does that water need to be?
It needs to come to the boiling point. So if you have a thermometer, you can find the boiling point is, okay, I'm terrible with numbers. What is it? 220 is the boiling point. When it comes to a rolling boil, you're safe. But if you like to, you can get a thermometer that has all the markings on it. Okay? Yes.
Stop her. Let me hold the, or at least the thermometer in your hand.
Go. Get a close-up picture.
Yup.
It's just a candy thermometer.
Sweet, thank you.
Good. Okay. Now, how do I tell you all to stop if I want to stop recording?
Just raise your hand because we're going to edit all of these things.
So I'll give you
So,
a signal that we need to stop for a minute. Okay, we're waiting for this to come up to a boil. But we have to do our fruit, so let me know when to go again.
okay. So all of us, we need to check our video to make sure we're getting sound and all of that so that we don't have to
Redo.
sound.
Redo. Yeah, we're early, so it's a good idea.
Yeah, so then we don't have to redo.
So just go back and hit play and see.
See if it's working.
Mine is doing well. Sound good enough? Is yours? Okay, yours is too. Perfect.
But
Okay.
yours,
So,
can we hear it?
Oh,
Uh-huh.
that's going right now.
But is it, do we have audio? Because one time we had a
No, it doesn't make any difference because you're never going to make it, because you only use one audio track. when you're doing multicam.
Okay, I'm just making sure that we all have audio, which is very important. That'd be awful.
I need to get a stand for next time.
You want a chair?
No, I just mean because my arms.
Oh, stand.
Yeah, trying not to
I
shake
need
them.
another tripod, I actually have one at the store, I could have brought. Do you have a question? You can ask questions, you guys,
Okay,
as we go along.
Oh,
I'm sure,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
pull you in a minute, and we're gonna,
I'm sure I don't have many.
do you have a question?
No.
Okay,
I know when
we are ready. Are y'all ready to rock and roll?
I'm good.
Okay.
I guess it's April. That's the important question.
Okay, we're ready to go here. What we're gonna do next is make sure we have all of our ingredients ready to go. With canning, you wanna work quickly. We have a certain temperature range that we wanna stay out of when you're handling food. Below 40 degrees is good. That's what's gonna keep the enzymes and the bad bacteria at a minimal. When it warms up to 40 degrees, bacteria start to multiply. I'm sure you've all heard, don't leave food sitting out for more than 30 minutes to an hour. That's why, the longer it's out at a higher temperature, the more of those bacteria are gonna grow, and that's what we don't want. I know it's been in the news lately about E. coli on onions. What's happened is probably it got cross-contaminated with something. Onions usually are left out at room temperature, the bacteria multiplied, and then they had a problem. And there's, I think, even been a death or two, which is very sad. So wash everything, try to keep it temperature controlled. I just took the strawberries out of the refrigerator. They're still nice and cold. The sweetener is okay. That's what we have to worry about with this production in making jam. We are making strawberry jam today, and we're going to be making the no sugar recipe today. So we're going to use it's not sugar, it's a sweetener. It looks much like sugar. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. It happens to be something called monk fruit, which is fairly new to me, but I like that sweetener because it doesn't have the aftertaste and chemicals that a lot of your sweeteners do. We want to stay as natural as we can, but it has 0 calories, which is wonderful. So we're going to do that today. When having your ingredients ready to go, you need to have the proper ingredients. For this recipe, we're using 48 ounces of strawberries, 1 cup of your sweetener, your sugar-free sweetener, 1.5 cups of water, 2 packages of the no sugar or low sugar pectin.
There we go.
And do you want to pick a picture of the regular? Yes. Talk about it as well.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready? Okay, we do have regular pectin. If you're going to use sugar, if you're not worried about your waistline, if you're not worried about sugar, you want to get the regular pectin, okay? And the recipes are different. Students, you're going to get a recipe for the sugar and the sugar-free. We happen to be doing sugar-free today, but the process is exactly the same. It's just what you put in it.
What's the taste difference?
I'm going to be letting y'all taste it. I can't really tell a difference. In fact, my husband has now said he prefers the monk fruit, which is amazing. He usually likes sugar. Okay, we have a student saying yes, so you've had it before and you like it.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. And there's different brands. I'm not recommending one brand or another, but look for monk fruit. It's right in the same aisle as your sugar. Okay, good questions. All right, so since we're using the artificial sweetener, we're going to use the low sugar or no sugar pectin. Okay, which student wants to dive in and do something? Come on down. Ladies first.
Go ahead. You haven't canned yet, so.
Oh, okay. We're going to have Clayton
Thank you.
come over and do some of the hands-on. Clayton, you're going to slowly pour the fruit in, so hopefully it doesn't go all over the place and get on your nice shirt.
So be careful.
Sure, just pour it right in there.
All it.
All of it. It's already pre-measured, 48 ounces. Through the magic of TV, I've done some of this ahead of time. I was up since 5. Thank you very much. Go ahead and just kind of brush that in. we are gonna take a musher, technical name, and we're gonna mush it. Now with jam, the difference between jelly and jam is, jelly is just the clear liquid part of it, okay? With jam, you actually have chunks of fruit. So it's really up to you how chunky you want your jam. And if you really like to bite into fruit, you don't smush it up so much. If you like it a little bit smoother, you just smush it, smush it, smush it, smush it. Okay? While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and open up the no sugar or low sugar pectin pan. This is really hard. There it is. Put it in the plastic off first. Need smush. There you go.
Is this recipe in this book?
It is. Okay, good. You're going to get the sugar and the sugar-free recipes.
I accidentally hit pause there. I didn't realize I had that option.
Do we need to check it?
No, because there's somebody going.
I'm going to go ahead and pour in 1.5 cups of water. Smushing.
Keep smushing.
Really smushing. We gotta get it down. A little more smushy than that. Besides, I have to freeze it.
Very cool. Do you use frozen strawberries as well as?
We are using frozen strawberries today. Yeah. H-E-B had some, say a certain brand of grocery store. The grocery store here had very nice frozen strawberries, luckily. We got a batch earlier in the year, a couple months ago, we did a class on, you never know what kind of strawberries you're gonna get with frozen because you can't hand pick them. I like the fresh strawberries, not exactly the right season right now, so we decided to go with the frozen. It's just easier for doing the classes. You want to smush it out? No. Okay, I'm going to slowly start pouring in the pectin while you're smushing. So you just kind of sprinkle it in. Doing the pectin, you kind of want to do it like you're making gravy, just a little bit at a time so it doesn't lump up on you. And you kind of do it while you're smushing.
So it does have a tendency to lump.
Yeah, if you like pour it all in at once, it can lump up on you. Yeah. Stir. Yeah, it's kind of like flour when you're making gravy. It will lump up on you here. Putting it in slowly.
Are you heating this? Are you heating?
Not yet. You don't want to turn the heat on yet. This is just stirring the pectin. As soon as we get it all blended in and smushed to the point that we want it, then we're going to turn the heat on to high. Yes. You want to stop right now because this is going to take a little while. Then we can come back.
So I'm just going to take
Kind of the
some.
boring part.
Well, no, I'm going to do some, take some.
Okay, good.
Snapshots. Stop.
Another whole pack of pectin.
Alright.
This recipe calls for 2
Wow.
boxes. Would you like to put it?
Sure. Wow. Not this patient mode. Now, the fresh strawberries, because they're fresh, like the, once they're frozen, aren't they kind of, they're like, flash frozen, I guess? How do they?
They probably flash frozen, that's what I would do.
I think most everything is flash
Flash
frozen.
frozen, yeah.
Plus,
So you get a little bit of crystallized, a really quick freezing,
They're also
really cold.
As soon as they pick it out of the,
Yeah, because I was.
out of the fields,
Wherever they pick
if
it.
they have, wherever they pick it, there's a machine right there waiting to start, it's wash and frozen
Yeah.
immediately, yeah.
So,
So there's,
That's impressive.
The minute you pick something, whatever you're harvesting, that's when it starts losing its nutritional value. So if you can eat something as quickly after being picked as possible, you're gonna get the most nutrition, the most vitamins out of it. So that's why people, where'd it go? Okay.
I didn't realize it had to have so much pectin.
Different recipes are different, I think it's because of the artificial sweetener.
How many packages of pectin are you using?
Two of the low sugar or no sugar. I believe the recipe for regular sugar jam only has one of the regular pectin. Eating nothing at all, that's great.
We'll have no moving on our watch.
That's right.
Smishing looks rather good. If you want to switch to screen, you're welcome to. Looks like it's smushed.
Is that a message to switch?
You can, it's up to you. I think for bringing out to boil, we will be switching, so whenever you want to switch. Ooh, I'm hoping it's strawberries. That would not be good. There you go. Kind of use it, kind of whip it in there with a spoon, that much. Perfect. Good. Not to boil over here. That came out boiling.
It's always handy to have several hands help.
It sure is.
On
It's
candy.
so much easier than doing it by yourself at home, yeah.
But it speeds it up as well.
It does, it really does. Now at home, my husband tries to help me, and he always is yelling at him, "Don't touch it, your hand." So he finally gave up and said, "You just do it." You won't even come in the kitchen anymore when I'm.
Oh,
Yeah, you. That's that much in there, it's okay. He's got it, he's whipping it in there. Perfect.
I wondered if there was a difference between the low sugar pectin or the sugary pectins. Is there a difference in the way that
It's processed.
it processed?
Let's see. There's a little bit that got up here on the side. See how that kind of clumped up? Yeah, it's kind of smushed. There you go. Smush it with a spoon. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, you must have made gravy before.
Great, yes.
Smush those lots, right?
Strawberry jam, no.
Everything there as powdery as possible.
You're doing great. Perfect.
April, is there any time you use less pectin if you're using a different kind of fruit?
Never less pectin. If you're trying to get something, let's say a little runnier, like I made a jalapeno jelly a while back, and I wanted it a little bit runny so that I could use it as a glaze. So I used less sugar. So that's your secret, is to use less sugar, and then it's not going to set, what we call set, forget.
Yeah.
So you always want to use the right amount of pectin.
Wow.
The low sugar or no sugar pectin has something in it that makes it set, since you don't have the sugar to make it set. I'm not a scientist, I don't know why, but I'm sure you could look up and figure out why. You're just going away, aren't you? Do you want that over here?
No, I just made over here because you moved there.
No, I'm just looking for a different perspective.
Okay, different angle.
Yeah, different angle, yeah. But I don't want to get too much into what you're doing, so,
Well, there's multiple ones going.
okay.
Did you want us to read it?
Oh, I'm good.
Are you getting tired?
I'm good so
You're good?
far.
Okay. My arm starts getting tired after a while. Almost there?
almost there.
So as soon as we get all the pectin, then we're gonna turn on the heat.
Always use the right amount of pectin and then lower the sugar on it.
That will make it more runny, so it won't set. Now, there are some no pectin recipes that are a little trickier. And for those, I've actually tested it in the freezer. I get like a little glass plate and put a little bit of the jam on it before I processed it.
Uh-oh.
All right, we're at the end. Okay, I'll go ahead and maybe start filming again. And we'll pick up where we left off. Are we ready? Ready to start filming? We're good? Yeah. All right, we're back. We've got all our pectins stirred in. Thank you, students. You're doing a great job. What we're going to do now is we're going to keep stirring, but we're going to turn the heat on. And you want to turn the heat on all the way to high. If I can figure out this step. There we go. So we're going to turn it up to high. We're going to continue stirring all through this process until we come up to a boil. After we come up to a boil, we're going to stir in our, in this case, artificial sweetener. If you were making the sugar, that's when you'd stir in your sugar. So at this point, we are going to just stir until it comes up to a boil. We were just saying there are no pectin recipes out there, and those are a little bit trickier to do. If you want to try them at some point, you might. The pectin is really what makes your jam or jelly set. But if you're making a recipe with no pectin, you'd want to test it ahead of time before you put it in the jars and process it. So in that case, you get a little glass plate, you put a little bit of the product on the plate, a cold plate, have it cold, put it back in the freezer for a couple minutes and test it. If it runs, it's not setting. If it doesn't run, it sets. And we could test this as well. I mean, with the pectin, it would be almost a sure thing that it would set. But if you do want to experiment and try a no pectin recipe, that would be your trick on testing it. So while we're waiting for this to come to a boil, our canner has come to a boil now, and since our jars are in there, they are being sanitized. To sanitize your jars, you need to have them at the boiling point for 10 minutes. That will completely sterilize your jars. I sterilize jars for recipes using 10 minutes or less processing time. If it's over 10 minutes, you don't really have to sterilize. I usually do anyway, though. What is it going to hurt? It keeps your jars nice and hot. You know they're sterilized. You know there's no bacteria in there. It doesn't hurt anything. You have to bring your water up to boil anyway, right? Question? Yeah.
What kind of jars do you use? Is there a brand that's better? I've heard that some jars sometimes can break while they're in the water. Have you found a characteristic within jars that would make you think that you wouldn't have that problem?
Yes. Of course, Ball and Kerr, who have joined partnerships now, is your standard for jars. I know there's some off-brands coming out. I have not tried them, so I could not say. The main thing is you want to inspect your jars. Even if you've gotten them brand new, things get jostled around. So you want to always inspect your jars, look them over, make sure there's no cracks, kind of hold them up to the light. Especially check the rim. The jars are in the can right now, but run your finger along the rim, make sure it's not nicked. Should be nice and smooth. And we can talk a minute while we're waiting for this to boil about jars and cans and lids. There's two parts to the top part of the jar. So you have your jar, and then my hands are nice and clean, so I'm going to go ahead and touch it. You have the lid, and the lid has a little gasket around here. These lids are one-use only lids. You only want to use them one time for canning. Now, if you have a jar of buttons and you want to use this later on after it's used, you can use it for buttons or a dry good or something like that. You just don't want to reuse it for canning. That gasket's only good for one-time use. After you put the lid on, you can see all this in a minute. Then we screw down the lid, and the fan actually, its only purpose is to hold down the lid. That's its only function. So we just put it finger tight, hold it down while it's processing. There are two sizes of lids and bands you can get. They're pretty universal. We have the wide mouth jars, which we are not using today. We're using the regular size bands, jars, and lids. But just be aware of that. Don't get a hold of wide mouth jars and then go out and buy the regular size lid. That's not going to work, okay? So just a couple of things to be aware of.
So do the lids go by size also? Like, I mean, you have half pints and then you have a whole quart.
Those, there's only two sizes of the mouth, okay, no matter what size they are. Okay, I'm sure you've seen the jelly jars. Oh, I didn't bring it today. So I mean, you can get them taller, bigger, but they're either going to be the wide mouth or the regular mouth. Okay.
The wide mouth's not that big, right?
Yeah, it's not that big, and they do come in the smaller jars. They're just fatter. You've seen the fatter jars, and you have the wider mouth. I was going to say something, and it went right out of my head. So yes, just inspect your jars. If you drop a jar, don't use it, because most likely it's cracked or chipped, and when you process it, it's going to break. Ask me how I know. I dropped it. Oh, yes.
I wanted to add something for you to say about cracking of jars and stuff. Don't put a cold jar in the hot water.
No, you
So
won't.
if you can say that about
I'll say
it.
that right now. Okay, you ready?
Sure.
Another thing about jars is do not put a cold jar into hot boiling water. You want to bring the temperature up together. So I had my very clean jars. I washed them last night in the dishwasher. Tried to keep them as sanitary as I could, bringing them in here to a different environment. I had them in plastic. I went ahead and put them in the canner in cold water. Now it takes about 40 minutes for the water to come up to a boil, so I did do that ahead of time. But no, you do not want to put a cold jar in the hot water. Yes.
A lot of dishwashers have that
Sanitizing.
sheen liquid. Is that going to affect the jar at all?
I don't use that. I just put it on the sanitation. Mine has a sanitation setting, and I use that to sterilize the jars. That will work.
With soap though, with the soap.
With the dishwasher stuff, if you're going to run a whole cycle, yes, because it rinses it enough. That would be
Oh,
enough.
okay.
Then I have a question for those people who do not have a dishwasher, they wash by hand. Should they put their jars maybe in water with a little bit of Clorox?
Really, if you wash it in nice hot sudsy water, soapy water, and then go through the boiling technique, they'll be sterilized.
Okay.
Personally, I don't think I want to put Clorox on something that's, I mean, you might get that little bit of residue, and I wouldn't want that.
And then, like you were saying, if you drop a jar, even if you don't see a crack or whatever, it could have a micro crack.
You could have a micro crack, and yes, I've had that happen to me. I went ahead and used it. I dropped it in I have a porcelain sink. I dropped it in the sink. I looked at it, I was like, oh, it looks fine. Went ahead and processed it, and guess what? It broke. So I just wouldn't use it. Again, you can use it for storing buttons, storing coffee, instant coffee or coffee grinds, coffee beans until you use it. Dry goods, you could use it. I just wouldn't process it in a hot water bath, and especially not in a pressure cooker.
And then there's a detail that I need to get. Can you pretend to,
Come on here and start.
sure. Could you pretend to turn up the temperature?
Okay.
It looks good.
No, else just up to you if you want to see closer. Just don't be afraid to.
Don't be afraid to go.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry at all. We have so many different ones going.
Smells good.
Now that I know I have this pause button, it's pretty cool.
All right, I just need you to pretend that you are, or turn it from low to high or whatever, just very quickly.
Okay, we're going to turn this up a little bit more. We do want to have it on high for bringing our strawberries up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, if you want to look at it real quick, bring your cameras in, you can see it's going to almost come up to where it's going to be at a boil. We want to have it at a good enough boil that it continues boiling while we stir, okay? And you can see it's getting a little bit of foam on it now, and we're gonna show you how to skim that foam off. Now, some recipes say that you can add a little patty of butter to it.
A what?
And a little patty of butter.
Okay.
Just
A little pat?
a little patty of butter, yeah, maybe a teaspoon, and it'll keep the foaming down. The problem with that is we aren't really safe in using dairy products in our canning thing. It just doesn't last. If you want to do that to save the foam coming up, you can, but just be aware it's not going to have a very long shelf life. So if you eat a lot of jam and jelly, that's not a problem. You're going to eat it up within a couple of months, so that would be all right. I prefer not to put it in my jam. I just skim the foam off. That way I know it's going to last in my dark cool closet for 12 to 18 months. I don't have to use it up right away.
Do you have to skim it?
You don't have to skim it, but it's going to mess with your headspace in the jar. It's not going to have proper headspace, which we will be looking at in a minute. And it's just not as pretty.
Okay.
And besides, bonus, when you skim it off, I like to eat it. It tastes like strawberry meringue. It's delicious. So we're going to actually put it in a little cup and we can taste it a little bit. So it's kind of a bonus treat.
Okay.
It's delicious. You can eat it. It's just not real pretty in the jar and it's going to affect your headspace. Okay? Stop for a minute. Let's stir. Keep stirring. You gotta keep stirring.
Gotta keep stirring.
You gotta keep stirring. We gotta bring it up to a boil and we're gonna boil it.
They can stop, I can.
Sorry. One of y'all have to stir.
Holler if you need.
Yeah, if your arm gets tired, I'm gonna move a couple of these things out of the way. So we have a clear shot of the.
So when do you put the sugar in?
After we've had it boiling for 1 minute. So we gotta bring it up.
It's boiling.
Okay.
It is boiling.
Okay. All right, we're ready to go again. Okay, we ready? All right, we are now at a boil. I don't know if you want to bring cameras over to look at this. We want to have it boiling while she stirs to the point where it does not stop boiling, and we are going to time it for 1 minute. Okay, we're starting now. And we're going to time it. Keep stirring.
Why for 1 minute?
That's what helps the pectin to set. After we've boiled for 1 minute, we're going to remove it from the heat, and that's when we stir in either our sugar or sweetener. Good. Takes forever to come up to boil, and then it boils good. 30 seconds. Stir, stir, stir. Good.
Does it thicken while it's in the pot?
A little bit, yeah, so it's going to start thickening up. When we add the sugar or sugar substitute, that's when we're going to start getting it really thick. And of course, as it cools, after we process it, then it'll really thicken up and get that gel texture. 10 seconds. Okay, we are going to turn off the heat and remove the pot from the heat. So in this case, we're just going to scoot it over here. Now, who wants to stir in the sugar? Go ahead, would you like to do that part?
Around this one?
Stop my timer. So again, you're going to, if you want to hold on to the top, I think these handles stay cool, but it's up to you. You're going to do it just like you did the pectin a while ago. Just kind of start pouring it in off of the heat. Stir, stir, stir.
Faster.
Yeah, you're doing good. It's boiling in there. I'll let you sprinkle because you were such a good sprinkler.
Oh,
a minute
we
ago.
go.
I'm going to try and find a cup for the foam.
Control in that pack. Earlier.
Oh my goodness, there's- Hey, there's a dog here. All in there?
Good.
All right. All the sugar is in. We're going to start skimming off that foam. You want to skim the foam with a metal spoon, and I use a big tablespoon, a metal tablespoon, so that works excellent. All right, skimming. Wash your hands real quick. You're finally done stirring. All right, to skim. You might want to come in here
And
close.
say one more time, what type of spoon do you want to use?
You want to use a metal spoon. Okay? I use a big one, I use a tablespoon.
And why metal and not plastic?
It sort of collects the foam. It attracts the foam to it for some reason, whereas plastic or something like that, it's really hard to scoop it up. So if you want to come in close. All right, and you guys are going to do this as well. So you just kind of go over the top, skim it off. See how it just comes right up. This isn't bad. You guys did an excellent job. It's not that much fun.
Does that have to do with the stirring
So
so much?
there where it's closer, you want to go there where it's closer? You're going to reach way across here.
Yeah, what causes the foam?
It's just a reaction of the strawberries, the fruit, to stirring and the sugar and the pectin makes it foam up a little bit.
So like pretty big glass.
Again, if you wanted to use the butter patty, it would keep it from foaming up, but.
All right, you need to try this.
Try it, try it too. You guys are doing a great job. Still right on the top. Got it. Good technique. Excellent. Just want to get as much of that foam off as we can.
So would you do the same process with grapes? Like
Grape jelly,
wild
yes.
grapes?
Any kind
Do the
of,
same
whatever
thing.
fruit you want to. You need to look for a recipe that was tested after 2015. 2015 is where they came up with a few different canning rules, processing times, things like that. I know I had to look at my blue book, and because I've been using my blue book forever, and I knew it was more than 15 years old. I looked at it, and it was from 1979.
Oh, gee.
And being the frugal person that I am, I didn't want to buy another $35 blue book. So what I did is I just started looking up what the recommended recipes were and checking it against my blue book and making any corrections right in the book. Or you could just buy in the book. Yeah, they came up with some findings that they had to change a few things. You did a great job. Yeah, there you go. Kind of like raking leaves, you should try to get it over one pile and then get it. Now, especially if you're going to give jam or jelly as a gift, it makes great Christmas gifts, right? And you wouldn't want that foam in the jelly jar. It would be pretty pretty. Yeah. It's all about the looks, right?
Yeah, especially for gifts.
Yeah, especially if you're going to do it as a gift. And one of the things about homemade stuff is not going to have the bright, pretty color of the things you buy at the store that has red dye number 5 or whatever in it. But that's what we want. We don't want the dyes and the preservatives and all that stuff. So I You ready?
Okay.
Okay, here we go, guys. I'll demonstrate the first one, besides the jar, getting the jar out of the first one, getting the jar out is kind of difficult, so I will fish it out. There's a couple of different grabbers that you can use. I'm going to use the thinner ones today. I like the other ones because these are the bigger ones. I'll use these on the bigger jars. But I like these because they're spring loaded, which makes it really, really nice. But it's really hard to get that bigger grabber down in there.
How many jars do you have in that pot?
There are 12 in this size pot. You can get different size canners. And just a word about canners. I'm going to set this over here. I did sterilize this, but it'll be fine. Okay, all right. This particular canner has lifters on it. You can get a canner with or without them. Actually, you can use a tamale pot for your canning as long as it has a wrap in the bottom. This is handy because it actually brings it up for you. I'm going to turn that up a little bit just to keep it hot while my glasses are fogging up and I can't see. All right, seeing is nice, right? So you're going to I brought it up, you're going to fish out the jar. Like I said, the first one's always the hardest. You want to have a nice tight grip so you don't drop it. Empty out the water. Set it on the towel over here. We're going to grab our funnel. Now this particular funnel has the measurements on it for you, which is really, really nice. There's other funnels, cheaper ones that you can get. You don't have to have that. One trick of filling it to the right headspace, the old-fashioned trick is these little rings on the jar that screw the lid down. It's hot. I'm not going to hold it for very long. And the old-fashioned way would be to go one ring down for 1/4 of an inch, two for 1/2 inch, all the way down to the bottom for 1 inch of headspace. What do we mean by headspace? That's the amount of air we need in between the product and the top of the lid so that it can breathe a little bit. It's going to let a little bit of steam out during the processing. And jam doesn't need much headspace at all, okay? Another handy tool is a dipper that has a little thing where you can hang it on the side of the pan because you're going to mess with it a little bit. If you would be so kind as to open the paper towels right there. Pull out.
Can you pick up the measuring?
Is this called a canning measuring cup or?
Funnel, yeah.
Funnel.
I would say hand funnel, yeah, I can put the word either.
You want a lot or a little?
A couple, what we're going to do is we're going to wet it, and we're going to use that to wipe the top of the rim of the thing in case we get messy, which I usually do.
I'm good, thank you so much.
So we're going to place the funnel on the jar. My assistant over here at the ready. We're going to scoop some of the product out for this. Let's get messy. We're going to pour it in, and if you look, there's a 1/4 inch mark right there. We're going to try to fill it to that 1/4 inch mark. And the other thing is the top of the ring right there. So you can
Yeah,
look
it's
at
right
it.
there.
And you can always pick this up and look at it. It's not quite there yet. That looks like more of a 1/2 inch to me. A little bit more. And this you want to get pretty much on the mark.
So the 1/4 inch is at the very top.
Right,
That
1/4 inch?
top ring, yeah. Or the 1/4 inch mark on your funnel. All right, we have it at a 1/4 inch. The jar is hot, remember. We're going to take a wet paper towel. Now, I don't have very sensitive fingers. If you have sensitive fingers, you probably just want to maybe try to hold it. I don't have sensitive fingers. I just kind of go all the way around the rim, make sure there's no debris, food, juice, or anything on that rim. So we did pretty good. Make sure I wiped the rings off a little bit. We're now going to take our clean washed lids, brand new lids, center it, and I just kind of center it with my fingers like that. We're going to grab a fan. And these have been also washed and dried. Put it right on there. You want to screw it down to just finger tight, just a little finger tight like that. Now, easiest thing to do is to go ahead and grab your next jar. we're all gonna get to do this a few times. Nice and tight, empty it out. Set it down. Grab this one, set it back in there to keep it nice and warm. And we're gonna, who wants to go? You wanna try it? Sure. Go for it. All right.
Let's see, I'm gonna put this a little bit closer here. Sure.
Oh, that's pretty good. Now we can feel this will be easier to clean up. You don't have to worry about it so much. There we go. Overflow?
I don't know. Yep, overflow.
Okay, so what we want to do is we'll grab our little spoon here and just rinse the book off.
Like that. Yeah, I want to overflow.
All right, we'll just dip a little. Actually, that's not too bad. We can just dip a little bit out. There it is, pretty
Right
right.
up there.
Yeah.
Okay, your wet paper towel.
Oh, yeah. Around. Especially on the top. I want to make sure there's no debris on that top ring. All the way around. Excellent. Okay. We are going to grab one of the lids. I'll center it on there. Just open these up a little bit better. Grab the thing out. Make a little. There we go.
Those are tight.
Finger tight, and you want to fish out your
Oh,
next
you
jar.
fish out the
Yeah,
next one
easier.
first.
I mean, you can put it back in, there's no right or wrong way. Nice and tight, nice tight grip. That's nice. So you can have your jars in the canner touching, you just don't want them crammed in there. I could probably actually squeeze in another jar or two, but then they'd be crammed, you don't want quite that. Okay, would you like to try one?
Sure.
Okay. Where to start? Where to start? Your funnels, or you can move your jar wherever you want it. Just the opposite.
Oh, we have a jar now.
Yeah, we already have a jar out, but you would grab it with the,
Oh,
see
okay.
the rounded part on the end.
Okay.
So unless you want to move it though, that place it's easier for you.
I don't think that's, I just want to exercise this just to see how it works.
Nice tight grip, so you don't lose it.
Yeah.
And you'll be fishing one out in a minute.
Probably.
Funnel, put your funnel on. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I like my countertop at home. I've got one that's a level up. I don't have to bend over quite so far to see it.
This is inspiring me. Maybe I'll make a jam for Christmas.
It makes a great gift for Christmas.
Do I need a little more?
A little bit more, yeah.
Just a tiny bit.
Tiny bit more, yeah. Not quite up to that.
Do you have to use the little funnel?
No, if you're really skilled and can get it in there, no, you don't have to use it. I'm not that skilled. I would make it a
Good.
little bit more.
Little more.
A little bit more.
Me too.
Little smidgen more. It's quarter inches. Come right up there. Let's look at that.
April, how much head space are you looking for?
1/4 inch.
Quarter inch?
1/4 inch. Oh, that looks pretty good.
Pretty close.
Very close.
Okay.
Now, most of the time what you want to do, jam it's not as important, but with a lot of product, you want to stir around and make sure there's no air bubbles in there. If you forget to do it, it's not going to make that big of a difference with jam. We haven't been doing it yet. I'll just get you to practice doing that because you're going to do some more jars in a second. You mostly want to do it when you're canning whole pieces of fruit, with pressure canning whole pieces of vegetables, because those air bubbles really get trapped down in there. With jams and jellies, not quite so much. Okay, did you wipe down the rinse? You have tender fingers? You can just kind of go around without touching it too sometimes. Should probably have oils, those are great for this.
Yeah, it's not that high.
Yeah, usually when it's set out a second, it's not too bad. there's different tools. There's a little deal with a magnet that can help you grab the lids. I happen to use the rack because I have it. Especially guys have to be careful. I know my husband's got a
I
heavy,
was just gonna say,
I have to kind of give it a little
it's a
thing.
habit.
Yeah, my fingers are very weak, so I give a little bit. Men to the, no, don't break it down that hard. Okay, fish one
and you're
out.
gonna get the other one out
Correct.
first.
Fish one out is easier. Let's take bread. You can put your other jar back in. Do you want to do another one, or do you want to continue rotating? It's up to you. And Ingrid, would you like to try one? You want to do another one? And then we'll get Ingrid to come in here and do one. Yeah, very good. All right, next.
Want to do another one? Real quick.
You really get the hang of it if you do 2 or 3 in a row. Got plenty of jars to fill, guys. With a big class, everybody got to go around once, but y'all get to really practice really well. Now at home, what I would probably do is go ahead and fill up all my jars at once, put it in, fill them all up at once, wipe them all down at once, take the air bubbles out once, put all the lids on at once, and then put it back in. That's the way I would do it. But here, we're doing it a little slower.
Close enough, and I see air bubbles.
Yeah, I'm going to put just a
Maybe a little
tiny
bit?
smidge more, just a little bit. Yeah, we're doing it slower here, so we're doing it one at a time. Yeah, that would be good. That looks good. Okay, air bubbles. Yeah, we did get some bubbles. Good. Good. Observation.
And they don't come right out either, do they?
You gotta kind of go around.
Work on it.
It's okay. If they stay on the top, they'll pop. Good. That should be good. Your strawberry stayed on the
Back in there.
Try to escape. Okay, wiping the rim. And you want to always make sure and wipe it if you redo it like that, because a little bit of debris might have gotten on the rim. And that's what we don't want in between the seal and the jar and the glass. Got to get a good seal.
I read that you had to put some kind of acid in there, but the fruit is acid enough.
This is acid enough. This recipe did not. That's where you want to get a tried and true recipe. It'll tell you whether or not. Now, the sugar recipe actually does call for lemon juice. It's interesting that this one does not.
Lemon juice.
It brings up the acidity. And with the lemon juice, you, just try to center it, just like that. And then put your band is what's going to hold your lid on. And we'll talk about that little bubble thing that you just touched in a second. The little bubble thing is up right now. Do you want to fish one out? And then you want to switch. Ingrid, do you want to? Sure, try a shot. Okay. We'll let him fish the next jar.
Find a good candidate, yeah.
Yeah. I think you can't see them on your side, they're a little further apart. Put your jar back in. And all that. Ingrid, have a turn at it. Good. Excellent. Okay, Ingrid, calm down.
All right, I had to wash my hands.
I'm gonna scooch the jars around a little bit to make it easier. Yes, washing your hands is always important.
How tight should you tighten the
Just hold it tight. Just want, it's just to hold that lid in place. You don't want to plug it in.
Can you turn on my, even though I'm not gonna be doing video, I wanna get the sound of it. So can you turn on the video camera? Oh, thank you. Oh, there it goes. Oh. Oh, so you'll have to put that back in. And it's the seaside, yeah. And then just turn it on to video. Technology. Yep. And I just need some.
You want me to take a picture?
Oh, no, I just needed the sound. I'm good.
Okay.
All right, so your jar is already finished out. We did that for you.
Okay.
Some funnel. And there's the quarter inch mark. So here's some of that good stuff in here. We got spilled. It's the fun part, getting down there to see that quarter inch. And you can put some and lift up the funnel if it helps you look that way.
No peeking.
Yes, you can peek.
I think I'm okay, but I might be
I'll
able to
lift it up and I'll stick it
this
on.
way.
Just a smidge too much, so just take the middle spoon and just dip a little bit out of there.
That's too much.
You were just barely there. See that top hole over here? That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
we're shooting for you. That's good, yeah, that's good. Perfect. Perfect. There you go.
Okay.
That was that top ring is for.
I have no idea, but it sure works good.
Nope, oh, spin, I gotta do the stir.
Your goggles. Anxious. We do have a, I kind of want to go all the way over there. There you go. This is little bubbles hanging out the bottom there. Hiding. Good. Excellent. Oops, nice. Yeah. You're gonna wipe your rim. Okay.
Now, I don't, because there are some tiny bubbles, but those are okay.
If they're on top.
On top, yeah, they'll pop.
Okay, they'll pop.
Okay,
That's good.
all right, so
Let me get you a paper towel.
now I have to wipe my hand.
Yeah, I need a fresh one. Okay.
And so you say you do, when you're at home, you do all of these stages all together
Yeah,
and
I'm
not one at a
I
time.
might do the next little bunch just to demonstrate that,
Okay.
how to do that.
So then you don't have to worry so much about the things getting cooler because you're doing them all at one time?
You need to work pretty quickly when you do it
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that
I'll-
good?
I'll do a little demo, looks good, yeah.
Okay.
And then,
And
do your time. Yeah, sometimes I don't want to catch just right
The
there.
thing is, if you have everything laid out to be able to do it, it goes pretty
It goes
quick
really
anyway.
quick.
Yeah.
We're gonna fish one out first. Just to make it easier, I'm gonna kind of scooch them over there till we can get around one. Pretty easily. Around the top, you want to
Around the
push it
top?
around the top. There you go, nice and tight. Take a good grip on it. Much is looking out. There you go. That muscle jumped up when I grounded it. Yeah, you can put your jar back in. Want to do another one? Sure. Did you get to do two?
No, but I've done them. I've done a little bit, so it's okay. Let them
Jar
work out.
oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm like, woo-hoo!
They're rolling into it now.
I like your funnel. My funnel's not very good.
Yeah, I have, let's see, Robert. Yeah, I've got a plain one and they work. See, I can get just a plain old one. I mean, it works perfectly fine. You just have to make it.
Yeah.
Still aim for the
I
same
guess
line.
mine's similar to that.
Yeah, just a plain one, yeah. You have to aim for it. Now, you are gonna get a tool today. one of your goodies. No, let me do this one because it's unwrapped. This one
That was perfect.
actually has a 1/4 inch marking, so you can use that when you're measuring. And make sure you're right at that 1/4 inch.
That's what that's for.
Half inch, yeah, 3/4 inch.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
And on bigger jars, this would probably work as a good stirring thing as well.
Now, that's what I thought that was for.
And then some of them actually have a little magnet on the end as well, so you could use that to pick up your lids.
Yeah.
There's different ones.
And then it's kind of cool because we do very little touching.
Yeah.
Which is good. And I think, you know what, it's just,
Okay, you remembered. Yes. You took your Prevagen today, right?
yes.
You don't want to really stir, you're just going around, slowly around the edges, just to, the bubbles tend to cling to the edge, yeah. Now, other big pieces of fruit and vegetables, if you do those, I try to get in the middle a little bit and just encourage those bubbles to come up. Not so much a jam.
So is this still, so this is for any berry?
Well, grapes, berries, peach jam, what other, apple jam, apple butter, pear jam.
Peaches,
Yeah,
apricots.
any of those, yeah. Not just berries.
And so you were saying that we need to make sure to though get a tried and true recipe.
And a lot of those recipes are in the manual I gave you.
Okay.
So there's a lot of recipes in there already. Don't press on the lid. Just center it.
Don't press on the lid.
We'll talk about that in a second. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right.
And just finger tight.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
And put your jar back, and then I'll demo doing several at once.
Okay.
Helps, on time.
Where was I? I don't see where my jar was.
Scoot it in there.
Scoot it in there.
Yeah. Good shot.
So
Scoot it over, buddies.
this whole contraption,
Uh-huh.
where would somebody find a pot like this with all of these things in there? Because I see a tray.
Amazon has it.
Amazon has everything, yeah.
Could you go to Walmart?
Walmart does have canners. So
Okay.
in your packet, there's a sheet, I think it's actually 2 or 3 sheets. I'm gonna fish several out at once and just demo that real quick.
And it comes with all of those things, you don't have to buy them individually?
And yeah, it usually comes with a lid, the rack in the bottom, this handled rack.
Mm-hmm.
Now this flat rack I put in there, it's actually out of my pressure canner. And I put it in there because these little bitty jars sit better on the flat rack. So you wouldn't have to buy that separately. There's also little kits you can get that have the grabber, the funnel, the dipper spoon, several things for pretty good prices. And again, Amazon, that's where I got it. It's gonna take maybe 4.
I got my pot is taller than this,
Uh-huh.
but a little bit narrower. I
Yeah.
can get 8 in there.
Yeah, there's
Instead
different
of
sizes.
12.
Yeah, there's different sizes. So just to save on time, I'm just gonna finish these off to show you how you do them all at once. So you just get them all out. Okay. And then you go through and fold them all up. And this just takes a little bit of practice to get used to it. I go over and snap the sheet out in a second. See, even I can. This is messier too when you do it this way. That's so very nice. What's gonna be the first thing you can? You're gonna do grapes?
No, I just accidentally stumbled upon wild grapes about 4 years ago, and I did a whole
Oh,
bunch.
wow, the Mustang?
Yeah.
Wild Mustang?
That's the only fruit I've ever done.
Oh,
I
okay.
did tomatoes.
It takes a
on
lot
the
of sugar, right?
And the tomatoes are a little different than can.
side. Yeah.
I did cowboy candy,
Cowboy candies?
yeah,
What is that?
candy jalapenos.
Jalapenos, oh, they're good, I got some. That was very sweet.
And I did a microwave candy.
Really?
Yeah.
You can pull
Wow.
bubbles out. What?
You can only do, you can't do a big batch in a microwave, so
Yeah.
I did like 4.5 pints.
Now, if
How
I'm
do you do that with the
doing
metal?
something that does have a lot of bubbles in it, I will go back and remeasure my headspace. This, not so much, because like I said, jams and jellies don't have any bubbles. I can see it's still sitting at a 1/4 inch headspace. But when I'm doing, say, something like green beans, or when I'm making pickles, anything where the air bubbles are going to be trapped more in there, I'll go back and remeasure my headspace after I take the air bubbles out. And it can change quite a bit with the bubbles on that type of thing.
What is the thing with headspace if you have too little? If you have too little headspace, I can understand, there's no place to expand or whatever, but if you have too less,
It's not expanding,
well,
it's contracting.
oh, because it cools, it's contracting.
Yes.
Oh,
It
it
And
does.
that's what's the
sucks-
lid.
It sucks the lid down. We're going
Gotcha.
to talk about that in just a second.
Oh.
Get this going. But see how much quicker you can do. You just do everything at once.
And so regardless of the jar size, you're going to treat those the same, except for
As far as,
the amount of headspace.
okay, different recipe calls for different headspace. So jams and jellies, as far as I've ever seen, have always been a 1/4 inch. I can pinto beans. I can my pinto beans, and they call for 1 inch of headspace. Quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah, now those you do in a pressure canner, and we're gonna look at one of those in a second.
And do you get information like that from, does it usually come with a recipe
Yes,
as part of the recipe?
yes.
Okay.
It will tell you how much headspace. Usually a recipe will tell you how much headspace, how long to process it. With pressure canners, it will tell you what pounds you process it at. It should, and how many cans it will make, usually.
That's it.
Yeah.
No.
I'm gonna do it the cheater way because my fingers are not that sensitive. I'm just gonna sit like this.
Cheater, cheater.
I made y'all do it the hard way. It's just like learning the hard way to do math and the easy way. They make you do the long division before they teach you the easy cheating way. So this is the same way. But if you have sensitive fingers, then you probably won't. So use your grabbers. I just kind of space them so they clam right up against each other. Oh, nice music. All right, I'm going to lower it right back down here. And we're going to put the lid on and wait for it to come to a boil. Should not take that long. Put the lid on, wait for it to come to a boil again. That's when we start our processing time. So if you look at our recipe, where I put the recipe, again, it will tell you how long to process it for. Tells you the headspace, how long to process it for. You can see that. And have 1 to 2 inches of water above the jar. Bring it to a boil cover, and we're going to process it. It should say in there somewhere, process 10 minutes with a cover on it. Okay, so any recipe is going to give you all that information. All right, so a word about the lid. So you pressed down and you felt how it kind of flexed. okay, that little bubble in it. So after it's processed, what he said, what is it, contraction, kind of does its thing and it sucks it down. That's what's going to seal your jar. So now you don't have that flex on there. Okay. So a sealed jar, it's open, sorry about that. You're not going to be able to get that lid off. It's sucked it down, it's sealed, that gasket has sealed it, and that's a good jar of jelly. You want to store any processed thing without the band. So the band's purpose was only to keep the lid in place for processing. And if you're going to give it as a gift, it looks nicer to put the band back on. For storage, you always want to take it off. Why? It's going to give you a false sense of its seal. Okay, if you have that band on there, and for some reason some bacteria or some little particle got in there and it seemed like it was sealed, but it wasn't really, at some point that bacteria is going to build up, it's going to pop the lid, so it's not safe because now we're letting contaminants in. But if you have the band on it, it's going to keep it down and give you a false sense of security when it's falsely sealed. Okay. You also don't want to stack jars on top of each other. And I know it's very tempting with these little guys.
Sure.
But again, if it didn't seal, it's going to hold that lid down and give you a false sense of it being sealed. So you never want to stack, you never want to store upside down or on its sides, upright, single layer.
Okay.
So the lids, if I have like from my tomatoes, can I take the lids off? The bands off and leave them
To
down?
store 'em,
But they've
yes.
been stored since
I
June.
would remove the band.
Remove the
Yeah,
band.
especially tomatoes are really bad.
Yes.
Popping the lids.
Yes, they are, because they're so high acid, especially if you didn't, if they're stored upright in a dark, cool place, they should be okay. I would take it off and just check that seal, make sure
Okay.
it's sealed.
So your point is you want to make sure that that seal stays sealed.
Correctly.
And if you ever find one that's not sealed, you
I
don't
would
want
toss
to eat that
it, I
product.
would toss it. Yeah, always do
Pickles on there.
the smell test too. Even when I pop it, it has a good pop when you pop it off. I still look at it, I inspect it, I still smell it, do the smell test, it's got to smell really good, look good, no little black spots or anything growing for sure, and toss it if it does. Yeah, I've seen canned goods, they say to store it for a year to 18 months. I've seen stuff that's been stored 5, 10 years. I open it up, it smells delicious. You know, it was sealed really good, it's stored in they recommend 1 year, 12 months, but, so we're gonna open up, we're all sugar-free. So I think I will open up a sugar one. Because you all can taste this now, nice warm, it's not set, but it's nice warm jam, we can test
So what
it.
can you use the leftovers for? Put on
Oh,
ice
ice cream, I mean, you can eat it fresh, but I'm gonna let y'all do the taste test. So there is some homemade sourdough bread that I made this morning. I did it about 3:30 this morning, so I was up late making it. So your hands should be still clean, so I'll let you grab a piece of bread. And then dip you some of the warm jam out. I'm gonna open this. Now, when you go to open your jar, there's this neat little tool on the end. And after you've processed, sometimes the lids, the bands do get stuck, okay? So this little tool, and again, it usually comes in a kit. If you buy the little kit with all the other stuff, has 2 different sizes for the large mouth and the regular mouth. So whatever size it is, you put it on there. This is a smaller, and it'll take that band off for you, okay? That's what that's for. The other end is to pop the jar. It's like it has a nice pop, right? Now that thing is going to flex again. It's no longer sealed, it was sucked down before. So y'all do a taste test. I'd like you to taste the sugar-free first. The strawberries jam with sugar has a lot of sugar. So if you do the sweeter one first, that one's going to taste tart. So grab you some bread and try. Do a taste test. Let me find a little knife. Or something.
Could you use like agave sugar
Well,
or
a spoon.
other sugars rather than
You can use
the
what
cane or the beet sugar?
Yeah,
Spoon
just,
it right out of here.
it's not like I said, it's going to be a little bit runny, so it's not cooled off yet.
do y'all think?
Tastes great.
That's the sugar-free, isn't that amazing?
It is tart, though.
It's tart.
A little
yeah.
tart.
A little tart, yeah.
Yeah.
See, my husband likes that. He doesn't like the super sugary sweets. You know, let him try the sweet one after that.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the rest of that in little cups, and y'all can take those home as well.
Yeah, dig in. Everybody dig in. Paul, come get you some.
I like your bread.
I like sourdough bread. Helps really get your gut in good shape. Put the
You're
probiotics.
gonna have to give a class on how to make that one.
Yeah, I love your recipe.
This is a cheater one. It's a bread machine. That's a bread machine that made that. So you use the sourdough discard in that one. All right, we're up to a boil again, so I'm going to start the processing time.
Sweet one.
We've got 10 minutes for tasting.
Oh, yeah, that's more my stuff.
You like the sugar? Okay. See, my mom likes the sugar. My husband prefers the sugar-free. I have a brother-in-law that's diabetic, so he has to do it. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. And so
Well,
does
couldn't you
my-
double the recipe on the sugar?
You
Or
could-
would
You really want to follow the recipes. You could look for another recipe that would maybe call for some more. This particular one from Sure-Gel, and that's one of the recommended ones by the USDA Home Preserving, is Sure-Gel, fall recipes called her recipes.
Canning is sort of like cooking, it's not like baking.
Right.
Baking is chemistry, canning is,
Yeah.
and cooking is,
Has to do
Very
with the.
specific.
Yeah, it has to do with how it sets and how it's gonna.
So you couldn't double that monk fruit in that recipe?
I would not. I'd look for another recipe that would call for some more. Maybe it would only take one box of pectin that way.
so if you add too
I
much,
happen to like that recipe, so I would
if
use
you
it.
add too much sugar, you might end up with crystallization
And that's
also.
it, yeah, exactly.
So Then
So
you
this
add
is regular sugar.
rock gel.
That one is regular.
That's regular sugar. You would do crystal. I got that.
And it has, we made that on the 19th, so that's been. What about in 10 days? 10 days ago. Good taste. Oh, twist your arm. So that's sugar-free, and that's a sugar. Oh, that's good.
It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
So I think it might matter what you're eating it on.
The sourdough could be, could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a sourdough fan. That's all we do
The
is
sourdough is hard to do because you have to have
the starter.
the starter.
Yeah.
Yep, sourdough is another.
And you have to feed it,
Yeah.
and you have to name it. Mine is named Peta.
Oh,
Pete,
gee, no. That's way too complicated for me.
You can put it in the refrigerator and let it
Named
dormant.
it.
Yeah, you can put it in the fridge, and you can actually freeze it, you can dry it, you can put it in the fridge for several days and let it go.
How do you get the first part? If you've never done it before, how do you get
If I
it?
get it to you.
Oh, really?
There are recipes to start it.
The difference I see is that
That's a lot of sugar.
this is a little harder, and that one is sweeter, but it also has a more intense strawberry flavor to it.
The sweeter one?
Yeah.
Well, that was set for 10 days. That will get, the flavors will blend after it's. It's good though. So I have, yeah, I've got a couple of sugar ones. But if you prefer the sugar one instead of the sugar-free, you can have one of the sugar ones, yeah.
If she is, she's upstairs. It would be in that main she doesn't get there till noon. Oh, she works from noon to 2, from what I understand.
Oh, yeah, it's a little early, so but the office is open, did you need to get in there?
No, I just wanted to say bye and waste some time waiting for the
Oh, wait, you didn't waste my
Yeah, I
time.
think is it noon or is it 1?
We're making.
Yeah, noon to 2, because it's 2 hours.
You want to taste? We've got sugar-free, strawberry, and we've got sugar strawberry.
Okay, you two that are standing in front of the camera, thank you very much.
Okay, so our timer's gone off, it's been 10 minutes. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the lid, turn off the heat, and remove, because it's an electric stove and they don't cool off really quickly, we're just gonna move it over off the heat. Now we're gonna let it set another 5 minutes. That acclimates your jars to, again, it's just like putting the cold jars in hot water. You don't want to pull the hot jars out and put them in a cold atmosphere. It's air conditioned in here, and the shock of it, they could break. So we're just going to let it get acclimated for about 5 minutes, and we're going to make a spot for it here. And then we'll set all the jars over here on a towel to cool for you to take home. Goes with that over there. And I'll let y'all take some.
Would you repeat, please, what you just told me about the lids in the water?
Okay, so yes, all right, so in the old days, not that long ago, we were told to put the lids prior to processing in hot water at a simmer, correct? Remember that? All right, so the latest lids, the gasket material is not the same. They changed the recipe for the gasket part of it. And they say don't put that in hot water before using it, okay? So all you have to do to the lids now is wash them in warm soapy water. I use my old rack that I used to put in the pot as a holding device now. That's all it is. We don't put it in the simmering water anymore. Same with the bands, just warm soapy water, and then try to keep them in a safe sanitized, or not sanitized, but in a clean area until you use them. Does that make sense? All right. So now we're just going to wait for the 5 minutes. We've been tasting our jams. What's the consensus? Are they good? Everybody thinks they're good? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Yay, okay. It's just a minute about pressure cooking while we're waiting for the jars to acclimate. So over here we have a pressure cooker. Oops, I'll bring it back over so the big camera can see it, I guess. So with pressure canners, you have high acid foods and low acid foods. And you'll find a list in your manuals of which foods are which. Most of your vegetables you're going to need to do in a canner. A canner is much heavier. I'll let you feel in a minute. It's under pressure for doing the canning, whereas water bath is not under pressure. Okay. Certain foods need a higher heat and a longer processing time to make them safe. That's what we use the pressure canner for. Okay. Your meats, your fish, your all of your vegetables. There's a long list of things that need to be pressure canned. Your jams, jellies, fruits, salsas, things like that. Tomatoes can be water bath. All right. It has to do with the acidity level in the food. Yeah.
Inclusive or exclusive of pickles?
Pickles can be water bath. Water bath. I found out something interesting. I had a whole bunch of eggplant this year. I have one bush that's it's ginormous. It's put out so much eggplant, I can't even keep up with it. And I thought, oh, I'll can it. Came to find out you can't do eggplant either way. It's such a dense, is it a fruit or is it a vegetable? It's so dense that you just can't can it long enough and hot enough to make sure you have all the bacteria out of it. Now you can puree it, you can slice it up in tiny little pieces and have it in something and can it that way, but I couldn't even cube it or slice it and can it. I was very disappointed. You can freeze it, so that's what I did. I sliced it up to eggplant parmesan size and flash froze it. I blanched it, I flash froze it. I made sure it was nice and solid. I put parchment paper in between and I froze it so I could pull it out for eggplant parmesan. So always research what you're going to do. Don't think, oh, I can just can it. And I looked first, thank goodness I did. And then they're like, no, I can't can it.
Not even Bhagavad Gita?
You'd have to look, there is a website where you can send recipes to, I don't have it right offhand, and they'll tell you yea or nay.
Or is it, that's what it's called? What is it called? I'm thinking Bhagavad Gita, that's actually the religious text. The stuff that you get when you go to the Indian restaurant is pureed, it's eggplant with garlic and
Yeah,
all of
puree, they
that.
said you can do that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Hummus?
No,
No,
Baklava?
No, but it's eggplant.
Yeah, pureed.
Pureed.
Yeah, they said
I'm trying to
pureed, you
remember
can do
the
it.
name.
Really?
It's eggplant
Because you
shells.
can't puree pumpkin and do it, so I do
Isn't
mine
that-
in chunks.
Right,
So
isn't that
way-
weird? So you have to know what you're doing and
Yeah,
look
you definitely
up
have to look
whichever
up
one
them.
it is. I just learned that about eggplant this week, I was gonna can a bunch of it up.
Wow.
So always be sure, you know, what you're gonna
Can
do.
you- Were you talking about canning pumpkin?
Yeah,
You can can pumpkin?
yeah, I do it in
In chunks.
chunks, because if you puree it, it's too thick for it to properly
Kill all
can.
the bacteria.
Yeah, to kill all the bacteria.
All right, anybody brave enough to fish out the cans?
I do.
We're gonna fish them out at this point. And we're just gonna sit them on this double
On the
layer
table.
of tallow. I'm gonna actually move it over here closer. And what you're gonna have to do is fish out the little things. I like to fish them up like that, so already back, grab a pot holder. It's not gonna stay. Where'd they go? There's one. We lost our pot. Oh, just put the one. Grab that one. Just lift it and hang it on the side of the pot. And then just like we did when we were canning, that's probably a good one right there. Start fishing that. Try to keep them level, and we're gonna listen. The first one's always the hardest, nice and tight.
Leave the water on top?
Leave the water on top. Try not to tilt it. Turn it so you don't. They're already popping. Did y'all hear that little pop? These little jars, and they're quiet. Some of the bigger jars, you'll hear, whoop. I mean, it's really loud. These are kind of, the little jars are quiet. Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that one?
Look how quick they pop.
Yeah, it's the small little jar.
Two.
Oh, that was a good one. Great. You want to fish some out?
Three.
Ingrid, do you want to fish some out? You're doing a good job. You want to leave about an inch of airspace in between for when they're cooling. So you're going to get a little space them a little bit. I didn't tell you. So at least an inch to let them. I have, my fingers are desensitized. My first marriage, my mother-in-law was Hispanic, and she taught me how to make tortillas and tamales and all that. And I had to do the tortillas on the hot grill oven, and I think that burned off all the nerves in my fingers.
Oh, no.
But I can make tortillas, so.
That'd be another
Which
fun
is a
quiz.
wonderful, yeah, which is, I understand there's a sourdough tortilla recipe, I haven't tried it yet, man. But yeah, my fingers, I can do hot stuff, it doesn't bother me at all anymore. All right, so if it really bothers you to have a water spot, and again, if you're giving it for a gift, you might not want the water spots on top. So what I do is the quicker picker upper, try not to touch the lid, but if you just kind of put it right above it, kind of over, it just kind of soaks up the water, and you won't get the water spots. It's the quicker picker upper. So you don't want to press, again, you don't want to press on the lids and give a false feeling. Kind of let the paper towel soak it up. You won't get those water spots on top of it. You want to let the jar, oh, did you hear that?
Sure.
All right, that's what we're wanting. Use that little pump.
Thinking of water spots, I've seen where people will put vinegar in their water to try and keep it from
I don't do that.
discoloring the jar or
Right.
putting water spot, I mean, discoloring your canner and your
Oh, leaving the water.
water
running.
spots on your
Yeah.
jars.
I don't personally do that. I couldn't tell you yea or nay on
Okay.
that. Probably depends on your water type too, if it's hard water or. We want to have pretty jars, right? Soak them up.
Sure.
Just kind of get a dry cap on. Just like the commercial, the quicker picker up a little. Try not to press on the lid. So you want to let your jars sit and cool for 12 to 24 hours. Since these are so tiny, 12 is good. After 12 hours, you want to remove the band, check, do the flex test, and then check. I kind of take it by my fingernails and just kind of let the weight of the jar, just make sure it's a good seal that way. So that's after 12 to 24 hours. If it did not seal, you've got 3 options, and those are in your manual. I think it's on a gold sheet. So your 3 options are to remove the lid and band, inspect it, make sure that rim wasn't chipped or some reason a little bit of debris got in there or something, some reason that didn't make it seal. Replace it with a new lid, wipe it down, new lid, and reprocess it. If it's only one jar that didn't seal, that's not worth it. If you had a bunch that didn't reseal, you might want to try reprocessing it. Second option is just to go ahead and refrigerate it and use it up, just like an open jar of jelly. Third is to adjust your headspace, so take out some of the jam, take it down to 1.5 inches of headspace, which in these little jars wouldn't even be worth it because it's half your jar. But on a bigger jar, it would be worth it. Make it 1.5 inches of headspace and freeze it. And then it's good for 6 to 8 months. Okay, and that's on that gold sheet here. So this gold one is your checklist for water bath canning. You just go right down the list. It starts out with sanitation, washing your hands, selecting the recipe, like we talked about, gathering your supplies, having them all ready to go, checking your ingredients, make sure you have enough ingredients of everything to make your, nothing worse than halfway through and you're like, I didn't have enough of whatever. Prepare your water canner, your boiling water, prepare the food, which I did ahead of time for y'all. I chopped up those strawberries and had them measured. You're welcome. Fill your jars, we did that. Fill the canner, process it for 10 minutes in this case. We're at the cooling period now, cool for 12 to 24 hours. And then storing, we talked about that a little bit. Cool, dark place is the best. I keep mine in a large hallway closet that I don't use as a closet on my pantry. It's nice and cool and dark in there. And then we just talked about the unsealed jars. So, any questions?
It's good.
You guys did it. Good
That was-
job.
that
Give
was-
yourselves a hand. That was
Yeah.
excellent. Good job, y'all. So proud of you. And now you're not scared to do it on your own, right?
Oh, I can do this.
You can do this. You can do this. I made a lot of salsa. I made salsa last weekend as well. So, because I had a lot of tomatoes, a lot of jalapenos, a lot of onions. I'm getting down to the last of my onions, but yeah.
So I have a
That's true.
question.